Hey everybody, we're here today to do a Master Series video on how we're going to dominate the new Conquest and all of the updates that have gone into it. We're joined today by Sky. He's a pretty high-end player from Honor Bound, loves Conquest, so he seemed like a good person to get on the video with us.
Hello.
So, there's been a number of updates and we've got a lot of different feats to what we had before, which can seem a bit daunting when you first look at them. But we're gonna look into how the feats can bleed over and be accomplished by several different teams at the same time. So you can get the maximum efficiency you can get out of your time in Conquest. So let's first look at the feats for Sector 1. We have Opportunistic Attack, which is worth 5 banners, tickets, whatever they're called. And that requires you to attack out of turn 100 times. We then have Lucky Shot, which requires you to score at least 200 crits. Critical Success, which requires you to gain advantage 40 times. Calicori, which is to defeat 30 units with Phoenix Squadron units. Bounties to Collect, which is win 14 battles with a full team of bounty hunters. And Incapacitating Strikes, which requires you to attempt to inflict potency down 40 times. So the most efficient solution I've looked at so far will allow you to work on Opportunistic Attack, Incapacitating Strikes, and Critical Success at the same time. I think the best lineup you can have is Jedi Master Luke as the leader, with Grandmaster Yoda, Hermit Yoda, Shaak Ti, and Bastila. All you're going to want to do here is use all of the assist attacks, so Luke's leadership, Luke's first special, Hoda's first special, Shaak Ti's second special, and Bastila's first special, to feed attacks to Grandmaster Yoda. Grandmaster Yoda on his basic will attempt to apply potency down. So this is going to tick towards your attack out of turns, tick towards your potency down, and only a little, but Jedi Master Luke's first special also applies advantage to the person he targets and himself.
It's a little wild that they give us a feat that can only be completed by 2 toons in the entire.
Yeah, the only toons I could find that can inflict potency down were Grandmaster Yoda and Young Lando, and I'm sure not many of us have Young Lando geared up.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's pretty wild. But it is worth noting here that if you don't have Jedi Master Luke, you could use Jedi Knight Revan lead. You could replace Shaak for Jolee, and you won't get the advantage, and it might not get you as many attacks as it's definitely not going to get you as many attacks as the Jedi Master Luke lead, but you'll still be working towards you might even do the attack out of turn faster, but it's going to take you a little longer to get the potency down, as there'll be less directed assists into Grandmaster Yoda. But this should all tie up quite nicely. At least the first 2 here that you'll be able to get. I think you can probably get 15 to 20 assists per node and 10 to 15 potency downs per node. So this should wrap up pretty quickly.
Yoda should get more than that, right? Because he gains TM on his basic as well, so he's going to go a lot.
Yeah,
but not just the assists, but he's also going to take a lot of turns.
That is true, but the enemies in Sector 1 aren't exactly strong. So the problem I would envisage is that you're going to kill them too quickly.
Possibly, yeah. I don't know, just mod your characters like I would, and I'm sure you'll be fine.
Yeah, if you mod them so they have high health pools and low damage, then this you can rattle this off quicker, but that seems like a pain that you don't need to go through. So if you don't have either of those teams, or you want to work on the out of turn attacks and the score crits, the last team will get you a number of score criticals as well, but you'll probably finish off the out of turn and potency downs before you get the 200 crits. These teams here are very efficient at scoring crits and very good at attacking out of turn. Obviously, you've got the Imperial Troopers team. They just essentially go infinite, assist a lot, attack out of turn a lot, have crit chance up from start. So they should rattle off both of these relatively quickly.
And they're fun to use.
Super fun to use. Super fun to use. Bo-Katan, little bit of a sleeper, but whenever any of your Mandalorians use a basic, they're going to call another Mandalorian to assist. If that happens to call Canderous, you're then getting 2 to 3 attacks out of turn. With good crit chance, again, this could rattle both of these feats off very quickly. And obviously, the Conquest All-Star, CLS. This team is just going to be bananas in basically every sector.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know how much they're going to change the discs, but I'm pretty sure I was using CLS at 50, 40, even 30%, and they were still doing heavy work in the late sectors.
Oh, 100%. The team is very, very powerful. The only thing I'd shy away from using CLS in this sector for these feats is the energy, is the stamina, because you're gonna want to use them in sector 2 and 3. And if you're plowing through Conquest pretty quickly, you're going to get into sector 2 very quickly, and there you're really going to want your CLS team as high on stamina as possible. So if you can work with the Imperial Trooper team or the Mandalorian team, I think that's going to get you the most leeway here. So then we have the Kalikori, which is defeat 30 units with Phoenix Squadron units. Now, this is an 8.1 million GP accounts Phoenix. As you can see, they're not very good. These will probably even struggle in Sector 1, because Sector 1 is still, Relic 3 units? I think?
Relic 4, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8?
Okay, yeah. So it's either going to be Relic 3 or 4. I think Sky is right on that it's Relic 4. So this team, for most people, just isn't going to cut it. But we have a little bit of a spicy one. So you don't have to use Mon Mothma, and it doesn't really benefit Ezra using Mon Mothma. But Mon Mothma has a heal on basic, which will give Ezra some more survivability. You're just loading up your best Phoenix attacker, essentially. So Ezra or Sabine, whichever has the most gear. I think Ezra's the better toon. I don't think anyone's really going to debate that. He has turn meter on his both his specials, and he's a good damage dealer. But you load him up with the buff from Hermit Yoda. You load him up with either the heal tech or the turn meter tech from Wat Tambor. You load him up with the stats from C-3PO, and once he gets the max translation, he's going to be resetting his cooldowns more often. And then you get the sustain from Mon Mothma, who can also summon another toon to take a bit of the fire away from Ezra. I think this is a spicy one that could potentially knock this one out. You might need to look for the optimal node to actually get it done. Like maybe this composition is better against, I don't know, so maybe like a Night Sisters, or just something that's not too powerful, that you can get away with using something a bit weaker. Or maybe you've got some good data disc which is going to supplement this team. But I think this is going to be a better approach for most people. And got anything you think we could use differently there as a support, Sky?
No, the only thing I was going to mention is that if they're comparable, Ezra is better than Sabine because of Hermit Yoda's training, because all his stats are doubled for Jedi.
Yes, that as if they are comparable, Sky is completely right. Hermit Yoda doubles up the buff. Another good thing about this team is that this double dips into the global feats as you're using a dark side and a light side tomb, so you count towards the bring balance feat, and also because you don't have a tank, you're also counting towards the unguarded feat. So this is a pretty good little composition for hitting multiple different targets.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning that that middle trio, the ones that don't deal any damage, will probably be quite good at doing the kill with faction units feat, just because you can actually load up someone and buff them that way. So, for example, if you replace Ezra and Momo with, I don't know, a Sergeant Darker, for example, then you might be able to get the Night Sister kills quite quickly just because your Asajj is buffed.
Yep, that is a very valid point. Then we also have the last feat for this sector is bounties to collect, which is 14 wins with a full squad of bounty hunters. Essentially, you're just going to want to use your Django or your Bosk lead with whatever your best 5 bounty hunters are. I've lined up 2 different compositions here: the Django, Bosk, Sam, Mando, Grief comp. And so this is for people who maybe have had bounty hunters for a while, like Mando and Grief. And then for the people that have just got Executor, Bosk, Django, Boba, Dengar, IG, because you're going to have all of these relicked from Executor, and that team should easily get it done. Worth noting, though, that the Django team here or any bounty hunter composition that has Mandalorian and Grief also double dips into that bring balance global feat. But I think this is pretty straightforward for the bounty hunters, especially in a relatively low difficulty sector.
Yeah, especially if you have the bottom team, you should be able to deal with some Relic 14.
I think the bottom team is actually really strong, like just generally.
It's definitely stronger than people think, especially because I mean you have a Relic 7 and a Relic 8 attacker, so it can only be so bad.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Oh, and the last feat, critical success, gain advantage 40 times. So we should have, if we had JML, we should have gained advantage a few times. Hopefully half the feat, maybe less. But we can easily mop this up with any of the First Order leaders here. So SLKR, Hux, or Phasma. And then basically any combination of the other twos. If you need to use Crew as the leader because you're not as progressed with First Order, that's fine. But I haven't included Crew. Oh, excuse me. I haven't included Crew on this screenshot because, again, this double dips into the unguarded global feat. But essentially, Hux, Phasma, SLKR all have advantage gaining mechanics. Your First Order TIE Pilot gives, your First Order Special Forces TIE Pilot, your Sith Trooper, and your First Order Officer all have mechanics for giving advantage to the team. I think the other 3 have some stuff in it as well. So this is pretty good for, I think you can knock this one out in 2 nodes, 3 nodes at worst.
The previous Conquest had some ridiculous number for advantage. I want to say it was 100, wasn't it?
No, I have a feeling it might have been the same. But I remember knocking that out in 2 or 3 nodes, so maybe it was higher.
Yeah, if you have Supreme Leader Kylo, then you can definitely get it done in 1 or 2 fights.
Yeah. I think if you have to or you want to use Crew Lead, that might even be better because there's something about part of his leadership is when you gain a status effect, someone who doesn't have advantage gains advantage or something. So that's a supplementary way of gaining advantage. But again,
now you're testing my kit knowledge. You know that's pretty cool.
Okay, so we'll move on to Sector 2 now. So Sector 2 has 6 feats. All the feats are worth 5 points again. We have Unsupportive, which is win 10 battles with no support units in your squad. The Best Defense, which is win 10 battles with 5 attackers in your squad. Super Support, which is grant at least 100 buffs to allies. All Night Sisters, which is win 14 battles with a full Night Sister squad. Striking Back, which is defeat 40 units with rebel fighters. And Blinding Assault, which is attempt to inflict blind 40 times. So, the most efficient solution I found is this Rebels team. You can work on the win 10 battles with no support and win 10 battles with 5 attackers in your squad in one team. You just have to do 10 fights with essentially CLS, Han, Chewie, and 3PO plus 1 attacker. And 3PO and Chewie will do an AoE blind as their first on their first special, which is attempt to inflict blind 5 times. So every battle you're going to get 5 blind attempts just from 2PO. You can, as your 5th, you can use basically any rebel attacker, or if you want to, you can do a double dip again. You could put Darth Maul or Savage Press in this team, and that'll help you work towards the win 20 fights with Maul or Savage in your team. And also you're going to get the Unguarded global feat.
I actually think the wording on that one was Darth Maul and Savage.
Oh, is it both?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Well, we can scratch that. But you can still...
CG aren't very nice to us.
But you can still use any dark side attacker if you want to progress towards the have a light side and a dark side in your team. Plus, you're going to get Unguarded. So you're going to be working on at least 5 different feats here.
Yeah, it's worth noting you might want to keep Wedge and Biggs healthy for the Rebel fighters. So it's a good chance to use
Princess Leia. Isn't Princess Leia also a Rebel fighter? Or did she get shafted?
That I don't actually know. But if you want to use a dark side attacker, someone like Wampa is also quite good, because you're not going to really use him anywhere else.
Yeah, that is a valid point. But again, I think this is a great team, as I alluded to in Sector 1, because you're just going to work on so many feats at the same time. Super efficient.
Princess Leia is in fact not a rebel fighter.
That's a disgrace, seeing as she was a fighter and a rebel.
It really is, yeah.
Oh well. Hey ho, CG. Okay, so next we have Super Support for the 100 buffs, all Night Sisters and Rebel Fighters. So we've got 2 different compositions here. So we have a full Night Sister team where we've dropped Spirit as the last person for Night Sister Acolyte. This is mainly because Acolyte's going to use her basic and grant herself stealth. Zombie's going to have a turn and grant herself taunt. I think Daka's revive special also grants defense up. So you can be working on your 14 battles here and work on your buffs at the same time. Then the Rebel Fighters. Obviously, like, not everyone's going to have the busted Mon Mothma team with Pal, Biston, Kara, Cassian, K2, Hoth Rebel, Scout, etc. But if you've been working towards JML and JKL, you should have this team, excluding Scarif Rebel Pathfinder, but you should have this team good to go, and this should do some work for you. You could also, as Skype mentioned with the combination of Wat, C3PO, and Hoda. You could potentially ditch Scarif, Rebel, Pathfinder, and Lando and just use Mon Mothma, Wedge, and the 3 supports. Or ditch Mon Mothma and use Wedge, Lead, Biggs, and the 3 supports. And perhaps you can get this done a bit easier if your whole team isn't up to scratch. So you have a bit of options, a few options on the Rebel Fighter composition there.
Yeah, this might take a while, but I think with that little trick, you can leverage weaker tunes to actually still clear.
Yeah, and I think Mon Mothma is generally pretty good against a Night Sister team. So if you can find a node with Night Sisters, you can maybe get yourself into a kill 3 people, leave 1 plus zombie alive, and just farm zombie for 3.5 minutes, and then kill the other one and kill zombie. And you could potentially rattle this off in one fight if you manage to find that Night Sister team and your team's capable of beating it. It's also worth noting that this Mon Mothma team does pretty well on the buffs between Wedge's cool assist, Biggs getting evasion up, Lando giving himself crit chance up, Scarif giving himself offense up and taunt. So both of these teams will help work towards the buff fee.
Yeah, and if you get to the end of it and you still don't have it done, a single fight with Grandmaster Yoda should be enough to clear it.
Oh, 100%. Okay, so Sector 3. I don't know why, but that felt like that wasn't enough feats, but it was. So, Sector 3, stunning attacks. Sorry, stunning tactics. These are now worth 10 per completion. Attempt to inflict stun 100 times. Shadow dealings, gain stealth 40 times. Relentless fury, gain frenzy 20 times. All Old Republic, defeat 40 units with Old Republic units. Clumsy, attempt to inflict invasion down 40 times. And All Empire, win 14 battles with a full Empire squad. So, surprise, surprise. The most efficient.
That team again.
It's that team again. So the most efficient solution we have, which will let you work on inflicting 100 stuns, gaining stealth 40 times, and inflicting evasion down, is CLS, Han, Chewbacca, BPC, but this time the 5th is R2D2. Han stuns on the pre-turn, stuns on the first special. Chewbacca stuns on the second special. CLS stuns once people have tenacity down and he uses his basic or something.
Yep.
Something like that. 3PO and Chewie, who assist whenever any of the other people take a turn, inflicts evasion down on his basic.
Yep. And R2D2 also stuns on a basic.
R2D2 tries to stun on a basic, and R2D2 will also apply 4 stealth from Special 1. So this is going to take you between 5 and 10 maps to get down if you're just using this team.
Although, again, if you do find the Night Sister team, just farming the zombies should get this down quite quickly.
Oh, 100%. 100%. The only thing that might take you a while is taking enough turns with R2D2 to stealth this many times. But that you can probably mop that up with other teams you're going to use anyway.
Yep, it's worth noting that if you need to finish the stealth mission, then JTR, R2D2, and C3PO is quite good at just spamming specials.
Yep, and also the Night Sister team with Acolyte. Every time Acolyte basics, you're going to get another stealth as well. So there's a lot of ways of getting stealth.
More lead is also quite good.
More lead also quite good.
And works towards the Savage feat, so maybe this is the sector to try and get that one done.
Yep. Okay. So then we have Relentless Fury, where you need to gain Frenzy 20 times. So we have the Mon Mothma team again. This time we're going to use Biston, as Biston gives himself a lot of Frenzy on one of his specials. Or we have two Bounty Hunter teams where we're going to leverage Bosk to gain Frenzy using his second special a number of times, his Taunt special. So these are both pretty straightforward, pretty grindy. If you want to minimize this to get through it as quickly as possible, I think it's worth noting that you could, say in the Django team, you could drop Zam and put in Biston, or in the Momo team, you could probably drop Lando and put in Bosk. And then you can probably rattle through this in 2 to 4 nodes.
You could also add Watt to either of the teams to give Bosk or Bist an extra TM, so that when they don't have Frenzy, they can get to their turn faster to then put Frenzy up again.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I like that one. But yeah, again, this is just a bit of a grindy one. You just need a composition where you can clear the nodes and use Bosk or Biston. It is also worth noting that this doesn't require you to win the node. So if you're coming back to clean up this feat, you could find a node where you just want to do one fight. You might not win, but you're not going to get killed, and you just load the 2 of them because you can just grind out the 20 without any risk of dying, but you don't need the node progression anyway. Okay, next we have all Old Republic, defeat 40 units with Old Republic. So I've noted here that you really want to use Jedi Knight Revan lead. And I've bolstered that with Hermit Yoda to make sure that the Old Republics deal more damage. Jolie, in case things go wrong, plus he'll call Revan, who's the hardest hitter here. Bastila, because it'll call Revan and buff his damage. And then your 2 options are really Mission and C-3PO. Mission because she both gains stealth, so helps supplement the CLS R2-D2 team, and is an Old Republic who can deal damage. Or C-3PO, again, he gives himself stealth, but also he has the stat increases for the team, which will help the Revan and the Bastila do a little bit more damage.
And if you just need to get this done, you can also use our favorite Separatist to give Revan just a little bit more power, or at least more turn.
Yes. And then all Empire, 14 wins. There's 2 great teams for this, and they're both pretty obvious. Palpatine, Vader, any 3 Empire really after that, but I've gone for Piet, Gideon, and Thrawn. You're going to have all the control, all the turn meter, all the turn meter manipulation, and a lot of ramping damage from Piet.
I mean, this is just a good team even in GA, so this should clear up whatever you're fighting against.
Yes, and then Imperial Troopers again. You've got your Veers, Piet, Range or Gideon, Stark, Dark Trooper or Death Trooper. Like, Range, Gideon, Dark and Death are pretty interchangeable, to be honest, but basically an Imperial Trooper team that goes first is going to likely demolish most teams in this sector. Okay, so I think that's the end of this sector. So that brings us to Sector 4. In Sector 4, our feats are still worth 10 each. We have Fleet-Footed, which requires us to evade 100 attacks, everyone's favourite. Disarmed, which is win 10 battles with no attackers. Reeling Blow, which is attempt to inflict stagger 60 times. Tradition of War, which is defeat 50 units with Mandalorians. All Smugglers, which is win 14 battles with Smugglers. And Evasive Moment, gain evasion up 20 times. Now, The most efficient team here might come as a bit of a shocker to people, but it includes Han and Chewbacca. So we get to triple dip on this team here. Kira leads just because it gives you a bit of stability because you heal when you crit, and I think
Also
you get
the only smuggler with an actual leader ability.
the only smuggler with an actual leader ability is true. Han Solo on his second special will give evasion up to the whole team. So 4 uses of his second special is going to get rid of the evasive movement. And veteran smuggler Han, attempt to inflict stagger 60 times. On his basic, he has a 50% chance to double tap, which is a 100% chance versus someone who's debuffed. Just going to say this. Stun from Han, Daze from Nest, Tenacity down from Chewbacca. It's easy to get debuffs on your team. And if he second shot someone, which is 100% versus someone who is debuffed, he applies stagger. So that's why these 4 at the top here, Kira, Han, Veteran Han, and Chewbacca, are the core of this team. Then you can just pick any one from Vandor, Young Han, L3, Enfys Nest, or any of the other smugglers. I think L3 or Enfys Nest would be your best bet, but you can pick whoever you like, to be honest.
Nest gives you some more defense against harder teams, which is worth noting. Because obviously Kira Nest is going to ramp up damage.
Yeah, and obviously Nest has AoE Daze, which is always fantastic. Vandor obviously gives you the reactive revive as well, which is quite nice, and L3 is a pretty taunter. But I'd imagine most people have Enfys geared, which is what's going to help this the most. Okay. It's interesting just how Han and Chewie are essentially always the most efficient solution to defeats.
Yeah, it certainly seems like if you're focused on Conquest, making sure Han and Chewie are up to speed is the way forward. Just making sure they have really good mods on them. And I mean, they're also good in pretty much every other game mode, so.
Yep. Okay. So, the efficient solution for evading 100 attacks and winning 10 battles with no attackers. JML lead, he's a tank. Grandmaster Yoda, he's a support who applies foresight to everyone. Hermit Yoda can't be hit while he's invisible. Shakti, a support. Bastila, a support. So this is going to be really grindy, but you only need to get through 10 fights. Like, you only need to get 10 evades per fight. If you can find nodes with AoE heavy opponents, that's great because they can never hit Yoda, so that's always going to be 1 evade per AoE. Grandmaster Yoda is going to supplement with a lot of foresight mechanics. Between the assists from Bastila, Shaq, Hermit Yoda, and Jedi Master Luke, plus the leadership ability, if it's always focusing Grandmaster Yoda, because of his passive turn meter increase on his basic, you're going to ramp through his turns very quickly, so you're going to be able to keep that foresight up quite often. But not everyone has Jedi Master Luke. So we've got 2 other options. If you want to win 10 battles with no attackers, is our second best Conquest team. Veers, Piet, Range, Stark, Gideon. No attackers in this team whatsoever. Super powerful. Gideon's going to make you go first. Piet and Stark are going to make you cascade the turns. And you're probably going to demolish things. And then if you need to evade, you can find... So Rey plus JTR plus R2 plus BB-8 plus C-3PO. This is very good, especially if you're finding a team that has a lot of turn meter gain. So a GG team is perfect. You load this against a GG team, you just use R2 to hide onto JTR so she's the only one they can attack. they're going to ramp a load of turn meter. Every time they ramp turn meter, JTR is going to gain mastery. Eventually, she's just going to become, just going to have 100% dodge rate. So you can farm that out quite quickly. It's less efficient than the Jedi Master Luke team because you're not working at 2 feats at the same time. But this will certainly get it done for you. Anything you can think of differently there, Sky?
I was just wondering what you can do for evasion if you don't have either GL. I suppose
you can always
JGL would work.
You can always do something with Grandmaster Yoda and some team, right? Yeah. Like I think something like Old Ben, Grandmaster Yoda, and just some other tunes is probably going to be okay. Yes. This could be another one. Another team that could be good here would be Darth Maul lead with 4 other Sith, because they have increased dodge chance because of the stealth stuff.
Yeah, and make sure you you include Savage in that team for the other feat.
Yeah, so if you don't have these, or you want to work on the Maul feat, and your Maul team would be good enough to get the wins here, this is probably a good place to try and work on that. So, Tradition of War. Defeat 50 units with Mandalorians. Okay, so one option is Jango or Bo-Katan lead with 4 other Mandalorians. I've just included the Mandalorians that I could fit on the page here, to be honest. Canderous is a great one if you have him relicked. He deals quite a lot of damage. Bam and Mando, again, they deal quite a lot of damage. Mando adds a sustain mechanic with his damage immunity. Armorer, fantastic tune. Another person who adds a sustain mechanic through the Beskar ingots. But not everyone's going to have all of these tunes. So we have our core trio that Skype mentioned earlier of Hermit Yoda, Wat Tambor, and C-3PO. You pair them up with Jango and or Bam. If you have them both, great. If you don't, you can just find another support who's not really going to attack. Maybe something like a BB-8, because then you can get the Go Nuclear buff, which will really help your damage. Something like that. I think you can knock this feat out. Again, find yourself a Night Sister team. Kill 3 of them that aren't zombie and the weakest tune. Farm the zombie for a bit. If you get lucky to find a Night Sister node, you can rattle this one off in 1 to 3 nodes.
Yeah, I think that's actually kind of important. If you ever have the choice of going through Night Sisters, you probably should, just to have access to a Night Sister node later on.
100% agree. There's a lot of benefit from these defeat X unit feats that really benefit from just having access to a Night Sister node.
So long as they have zombie, at least.
Well, yeah, of course. Okay, then Sector 5. Now, again, we have Reeling Blow. Don't know why they had 2 feats called Reeling Blow, but I guess CG isn't known for their creativity.
Well, this one's different, which is the funny part.
Yeah. So in Sector 5, all your feats are worth 15 instead of 10. So Reeling Blow is attempt to inflict daze 40 times. Marked for death, inflict death mark 10 times. Grand Victory, defeat at least 100 enemies. Let's blow something up. This is a tough one for people. Defeat 40 units with Bad Batch. Brood Warfare, another tough one. Win 14 battles with Geos. And Flawless Victory, win at least 20 battles without losing any units. Unfortunately, the most efficient team is going to be Bad Batch. A lot of people are going to be working on Bad Batch or have them done except for Omega. And you're probably not going to need Omega, but having the other 4 plus Rex or Shaq is going to let you inflict a lot of dazes, because Echo has an AoE unresistible daze. It's going to let you work on beating 100 enemies. and let you work on beating 40 enemies with Bad Batch, and win 20 battles without losing a unit. The last one, less likely if you don't have the Bad Batch at Relics, but I think if you have this team at Gear 11, even if it's only 4 stars, if you have this team at Gear 11 and you just have lightning fast mods on Echo, like 300 plus, I think that this team could work. I know it's a relegate sector, but I think this team could work. I've seen Bad Batch do some truly heinous stuff in GA at Gear 7 and 8. So Gear 11, modded properly, with a good supporting character, I think this could get there.
Yeah. I suppose it's worth noting that if you can't really get the speed right, and you have Kenobi, then his lead should help.
Yeah, and that's a valid point. If you have Kenobi and you don't have the Bad Batch, you could bolt in Kenobi as the leader, and that should help them survive. The only concern with that team is that Kenobi might kill steal, so you might struggle or have to do more for the defeat 40 units with Bad Batch feat, but you should still be able to get it done. It just might take you more attempts than you would if you were trying the team on its own.
Yeah, the Bad Batch part of this is definitely going to be the hardest one for those that don't have the team relic.
I agree. But it is doable. I did use Gear 8 Bad Batch with Kenobi in the last Conquest, and I could certainly clear, and that's Gear 8, and I could certainly clear Sector 1 to 3 trivially. So if you take that up to 11, I think this, turn the dial to 11, I think you could certainly get this done. So, marked for death. Inflict death mark 10 times. Note that this has changed from the old feat, which was inflict marked. So your options for doing this are less. But your Imperial Troopers with the mandatory Death Trooper is going to be your best bet, because you can get multiple death marks per node, especially if you find that beloved Night Sister node.
Well, Night Sisters should be fantastic for this.
Oh yeah,
especially with Pied, because you're going to get to a point where your basics just one-shot the zombie, so you can just sit there pressing basics until Death Trooper takes a turn.
Yep, that's exactly how I did it last time. But if you don't have the troopers and you do have Darth Revan, you can get one. Like it's only likely to be one death mark, maybe 2 per node. But if you have to, you can grind it out with these.
Yeah, if you do land that death mark, it's really hard to not immediately kill the target, given how hard they all hit.
Yeah, I think the only way you can play around that is by fighting a team that has a tank. You get the death mark going, then you focus on the tank, then the person with the death mark takes a turn, the death mark fades, then you take someone else below 50%, then you can maybe get 2 or 3 per node. But I think you're being realistic, 1 or 2 is the maximum you're going to get per node with the Darth Revan team.
Yep.
And then Geos. If you don't have good Geos, this one could be a real pain, because you are locked into using a whole Geo team. So yeah, this one could be tough.
This one, I think, is going to heavily influence your data discs, to be honest, because this is going to be such a hard feat to do. You're going to need discs that specifically make the Geo squad better.
Yeah.
So anything that buffs out of turn attacks, or what's the other thing they can do?
Debuff, is there something, there's not, is there a data disc for if you inflict a debuff you gain turn meter? Oh no, it's if you, there's something about if you gain a buff you gain turn meter, right?
Yes, I guess they gain quite a few buffs between them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anything that allows you to stack offense or survivability or turn on top of hopefully attacking out of turn is going to be at a premium just because this feat is otherwise going to be super hard for anyone that doesn't have full gear 13.
It is worth noting that we haven't seen what the feats are for the bosses yet, so I'll have to do another video once we know all the boss feats. But it is worth noting that apparently the calculation is still around, you can drop 35 points of feats. So this could very much be a contender of, I'll focus more on boss feats and ignore this 15 from these geos. So don't, and the same applies to the bad batch. So don't get yourself, oh no, I can't get max rewards because my geos are bad or my bad batch is bad. You're still going to have some wiggle room with the boss feats, and we'll get another video to cover those to make your life a bit easier then as well.
Yeah, the only issue I have with that is that if the wiggle room is only about 35, and you need to skip geos and bad batch because
That's
those
a
are going to be
lot.
quite hard, then yeah,
I think you're going to
need to do the weird boss one.
Well, I think you're going to need. I think realistically, you're going to have to do one of Geos or Bad Batch. If you can do both, great. But you're going to need to do one or the other.
Yep.
Okay, that leaves us with the global achievements. That'll leave a mark, which is worth 12 points and gain offense up 500 times. I think you're going to complete this one naturally as you progress through. Between using Imperial Troopers, Shack T, all the characters like that, you're just going to naturally gain offense up a lot.
Shack plus Yoda should demolish this one.
Imperial Troopers will demolish it.
And Troopers as well.
Every time you kill someone, you gain 5 offense up.
Mm-hmm.
You've only got to kill like 50 units. Troopers versus Night Sisters will do this in one node.
Yeah, that's fair.
Grand Victory, defeat at least 500 enemies. This is a natural progression.
Yeah.
Unguarded, win 20 battles with no tanks. Super easy between Troopers, CLS. Troopers, CLS, Array Team, First Order drop in the 2 tanks. Like this one's super easy. Okay.
Just between CLS and Troopers, you'll get that done. No problem.
100%. Night Brother, win 20 battles with Darth Maul. You were right, Sky, and Savage Oppress. So you're going to need to. So either, as we alluded to, you can maybe do something where you're using Maul, Savage, and three good Sith. So maybe your Sith trio. Maybe you're doing it with a Palp lead plus Vader plus these two plus Gideon and just going off on a Geo's team, or maybe you just have a powerful three-person team like Kenobi plus Cat plus Ahsoka, and then you just bolt these two in. I think you can knock this one off pretty easily.
Yeah, so assuming that you don't need to have them alive at the end or get any kills with them, which does seem to be the case, then you can also just plug them into CWAT and go to town. I mean, they will die, but who cares?
Yeah, agree. And the last one, I think I missed one on this slide. I think there's also the, there's one other feat called Bring Balance, which is use a team that includes a light side and a dark side character. I can't remember how many it is. It's probably 20 battles again. But
I think it was 20.
Yeah, so that one should be trivial using some of the comps we've put together earlier as well. And then
same for the 40 light and 40 dark. Those should be the same as the defeat 500 enemies. Like that will just happen.
They're just trivial, yeah. and then one's own path, which is defeat 100 enemy units in Conquest with unaligned force users. So there's a number of really powerful units that fall into this category. JTR, Ray, Cat, SLKR. SLKR goes through a couple of nodes, and he's going to just chunk through this. Cat, Ray, they're also going to chunk through this. So I don't think any of our teams prioritized using GLs at all. So you're going to be able to,
yeah.
I think just the JML team.
Yeah.
So you don't even need your GLs to get through this, but there's a number of GLs that are going to help you with the unaligned force user feats, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for the unaligned one, you can always just play whack-a-mole with SLKR and a zombie.
Yep, yep. Same with Ray, same with Cat. Any of those unaligned force users who do decent damage. Fulcrum, if you happen to have a relic Fulcrum for some reason.
I mean, honestly, I think one of the biggest takeaways of this is if you do find a Night Sister team, pick it. Don't avoid it. Just fight Night Sisters and save it for later because it'll just be so useful.
Having a Night Sister node is honestly fantastic. You should always try and aim for getting one. It just makes feat completion so much easier. Yeah, I think that's everything about the new feats, and hopefully this will make people's lives a bit easier, and hopefully it will reassure them that this isn't going to be as difficult as it first appears. Like, I know it's costing 20 energy per node now instead of, was it 12 or 16 before? I think it was.
I think it was 12. I think I expected it to be 16 and it was 12.
I'm pretty sure I saw a screenshot that it's going to be 20 now. So that's a bit of a bummer, but
and don't forget it also costs energy to move data disks around now.
Yeah, so you're just going to need to be a bit more careful with your data disk strategy. But generally, what I was doing with data disk before was I didn't really equip any until Sector 3 anyway, and then saw which data disks I had and built a strategy from there about what I was going to do with them. So don't waste your energy on equipping your data disks and then having to unequip them later on unless you absolutely have to. So that's going to be a pain. But hopefully this helps people look at what they can do with their rosters and be a bit more efficient, so they don't have to waste as much time or waste energy on Conquest and can get through it comfortably. But if you liked this video, or if you found it helpful, found it interesting, and you would like to see more videos like this, then please like, comment, subscribe, and get the word out. Share it with your arena shards, share it with your guilds, and let's help everyone out with Conquest. Thanks very much for tuning in, and thanks, Skype, for coming along.
Thanks for having me.